Risk assessments. So we've worked our way through each of the tabs and we've ticked them green as we go, as they've been completed. And then we work our way down and we get to the risk assessment tab. So the tab you need to be aware of in conjunction with the risk assessment is the initial survey. So within this initial survey, you've got ground hazards, any sort of sensitivities, anything that could affect your flight. If those hazards or sensitivities has an impact on the safety of uninvolved people, then you need to document them in the risk assessment form as well. So if we go down to the risk assessment tab, here we have a long list of possibles, what couldn't happen, and I'll use buildings for example. So here I've put as a ground hazard, we've got buildings surrounding the field of operation. They could be 50 meters away, but still in the same sort of field. And then in the risk assessment, we'll have buildings there. So buildings surrounding the field of operation. And then what we do is we score each risk before we mitigate the risk and reduce that risk further. So here, I got 5 because I felt if the drone was to collide with a brick wall, the risk to uninvolved people is quite low. It'll be very expensive, but you'll find your drone will bear the brunt of that. It won't be uninvolved people that are at risk. So I've scored it as minor damage in severity and a remote chance of it occurring. Here, next box, mitigation. So what are we going to do to reduce that risk even further? And we're going to maintain a safe operational distance from the building, account for terrain variances, and when it comes to terrain variances, remember your drone has terrain following software, so we obviously don't fly anywhere near lines or any obstructions there. But if you have not mapped your field correctly and your drone goes close to a line, if the land around it is raising as it gets close, your drone will raise with it. So you need to be aware of what's around it as well as above and below. And then here we've put, we'll ensure distance from buildings during flight are 20 meters plus, and we'll also map the buildings as an obstruction if we feel the need to. So putting those extra safety measures in, we can reduce that risk now. So the chances of it happening now is even lower because of what we're doing to reduce. And that is basically it. So you'll work your way through. If there's a line here that is just not relevant, so if there's no electrical telephone or pylon cables, you can just delete that line, the garbage bin at the end. Delete, gone. If you find that there's a risk or a hazard that you need to add an additional line to, you got the purple box at the bottom right hand side there. So we'll add row. And there we have it. Record the risk, mitigate the risk. The initial risk will generally be higher than your final risk because of your mitigation.